long time before that. When he won the double in the World Champs in 2005, everyone was just shaking their head. Even in 2004, he was my first sort of big race. I ran 3:32. I qualified for the Olympics in the Rome Golden League. El Garouche finished 9th in that race, and this unknown guy from Bahrain came out of nowhere and he beat Leggett and ran 3:30. His name was Rashid Ramzi. He didn't even get out of the first round at the Olympics that year, and then it took them a good 4 years until he got caught. So if anything, it's not like you're happy that these people get caught. It's just like, well, finally now it can be talked about publicly. Before that, you can't talk about it because you're at risk of libel.
And that goes back to your position now in the sport, where you can use it as being able to speak more comfortably. I'm sure now, having experienced everything you've experienced up to now in your career, you're able to voice that opinion, and you have that experience.
It's not just experience, I just have very little to lose, and so it's much easier to be public about my opinions because there's nothing really that can be taken away from me. I've got an exciting life that I'm looking forward to in my post-running career. I hope I can keep running for as long as I can, but that's not a reason for me to sort of keep my mouth shut about all the stuff that we talk about at track meets at every lunch and dinner and breakfast table before every meet.
Would you ever consider running for a position higher up, possibly with the IAAF, to promote clean sport after your career is done?
While I have young children, no. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to just continuing to live a pretty low-profile life with my family, and we do a lot of travel with my running right now, so when my running's done, I'm not sure if I want to be stuck behind a desk away from my family 10 or 12 hours a day.
You know, because of your position, like you said, as sort of a revered elder spokesman, if you will, the middle distances, and you feel like there's not a lot that can be taken away from you. Do you sense other athletes that have those same feelings, but their situation is a little bit different, so they're a little bit more guarded on their comments?
Oh, absolutely. Even people who might be with other sponsors, they still need all of the sponsors to be bidding for them when they're up for their free agency or when they're up for a contract renewal. Because if you only have one company that's interested in you, they can take you the lowest offer. And so, different sponsors sponsor the different meets as well, so you don't want to get blacklisted from running in them. And just most people are worried about the bottom line, is are they able to sort of stay above water financially to keep doing the sport, and speaking out seems to be something that isn't sort of, it's frowned upon a little bit, at risk of saying something wrong.
Sort of got here late. Here's a question for you. Do you think the sport is cleaner now than it was 10 years ago when you started the scene?
Absolutely. 2004, when I first made the Olympics, when they say how many of the medalists were doping, I'd say how many of the finalists were doping, and I'd say it'd be much higher than 50% in the finals. Whereas now, it's only really the top sort of 3 or 4 guys, there's a high percentage that are doing it. But because, just like in the Ramsey situation in 2008, it becomes more evident because they're so much further ahead, the 1 or 2 or 3 that are doing it. Whereas back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I think such a high percentage were doing it that it wasn't obvious because they were all ahead at the same time.
So you think there's a high percentage of the medalists in the 1500 right now that are dirty?
I don't know specific people, but yeah, it's, again, I'm at risk of libel if I ever say anything about specific people, so I can't really talk about this.
But just, what are you talking about, the 1500 medalists or all the distance medalists? Or both?
I think as a whole, the testing has gotten a lot better. I think the blood passport's gotten a lot better now that they were catching people for SERA and EPO back in 2008. People are veering away from that sort of stuff, and I just think that as a whole, the only people that can sort of get away with doping now is they've got very, very sophisticated methods to either beat the testing system, or they have to be in a very, very sort of closed-off environment, either from testing or from just the word of mouth being able to spread about what's going on. And those are very select groups that can take place now. And by and large, I think most people are above water now.
And what is your goal for the year? I mean, you've won an Olympic medal, so obviously most people say to win a medal, but what is your #1 goal?
it would be easy to say I just want to win a gold medal at the Olympics, right? But you can't really control what other people are doing. That's, I guess, the freeing thing after my disappointment of London. I thought, am I going to keep going with the sport, or am I going to retire? And when I decided I was going to keep going, I was just basically going to see how far I can get this body to go. And it's sort of been an exciting ride along, and I've actually kept on improving. And I'd like to get into coaching in some facet later down the line. So I guess I'm sort of using different trial and error methods and learning about myself from a coaching standpoint, so how I can sort of translate that into helping others down the line as well, and that's been really educational. And I would never advise other athletes to say it's win at all costs or nothing else matters, otherwise you end up just set up for disappointment all the time.
All right, thank you.